Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 865A, and today's date is January 12th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Entire Economy is Collapsing Except for Unemployment. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, in the last couple of days, we've had the market close on a down note. Today, we see the market was fluctuating, and the plunge protection team, the high frequency trading system, did whatever they possibly could to keep this market up, and they brought it up to over 100 points. Now, you have to remember, the president is giving the State of the Union tonight. Most likely, they push this up to show that the economy is doing well, to make everyone feel, okay, everything is back to normal, the economy is going to be doing well, don't worry about it. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow, all of a sudden, the market goes down 200-300 points. But we'll have to wait and see to see if this is what really happened here. Now, here in the United States, we know that the BLS completely manipulated the numbers. They count many part-time jobs as full-time jobs. This way, they get better numbers than those people who can't find work or are continually sending out their resume. They're just not counted. And we are seeing that a lot of retired Americans are working part-time jobs. The total number of job holders surged to about 7.7 million, just shy of an all-time high and the highest since August of 2008. And a record number of Americans who are retired are working part-time because of Social Security. In December, a record 2.6 million workers had either reached full retirement or restricted themselves to work weeks of 34 hours or less due to Social Security income limitations. Individuals can collect Social Security and work with no limit on earnings once they reach full retirement age. And we see at this point that there's a lot of retirees that are working. The cost of living has dramatically gone up. They're getting 0% interest in the banks. And a lot of these retirees cannot make it on their retirement. And this is why they're getting these jobs. And at this point, we are seeing that this entire country is heading down a path where the retirees are taking the part-time jobs, and those people that are going to college, coming out of high school, they can't find the part-time jobs. And as more and more people are being laid off, as more and more people are retiring, this is going to be a major problem. Now, BP announced they're going to be laying off another 4,000 jobs. And as we go throughout this year and the oil prices are suppressed and Saudi Arabia and other nations continually push the envelope and create this glut of oil, we're going to see the oil price most likely drop even further. They're putting a lot of pressure on Russia, putting a lot of pressure on China. And here in the United States, while helping many corporations reduce their costs, it is hurting other areas inside the country. Most of the energy sector is being completely decimated. Now, we know this holiday season, no matter what the corporate media says, is a complete disaster. Now, they're going to spin this any way they possibly can, but we are getting numbers in from Bank of America on the credit and debit card spending data. And U.S. retail spending has been plunging. And Bank of America revealed that if you go to the actual credit card spending, we see that those people who are using their credit and debit cards, either in brick and mortar stores or online, is that the retail season, this holiday season, was a complete disaster. And everyone believes that, because the brick and mortar stores aren't getting the sales, everyone went to online sales. And what we're seeing, that's not true. What we're seeing according to the bank's credit and debit card spending data, core retail sales, those excluding autos, which are mostly non-revolving credit funded, just dropped by 0.2% in November, the first annual decline since the financial crisis. And Bank of America desperately tried to mask the overall plunge, highlighting one of the factors like gas, weather, and anything else they could figure out. But they're running out of excuses. And this holiday season is a complete and utter disaster. This holiday season is at its slowest pace since 2011, which is hard to believe because the unemployment rate is at 5%. And we just added the 262,000 jobs that the government wants us to believe that was really added, but then we find out that only 11,000 jobs were really added. The rest are all part-time jobs. And most of them are seasonally part-time jobs. So what we're seeing right now is that this holiday season is a bust. And they're worried now that this is going to follow through to 2016. Well, of course it is. Of course, what happened this holiday season is going to follow through because we're getting more and more layoffs. We're getting stores that are closing down. We're getting layoffs in the retail sector. The energy sector is a disaster. And what we're seeing right now is a complete collapse of this economy. Now, of course, as the government numbers come out, they're going to spin this any way they possibly can. And they're going to try to make it look like it's better than it really is. Now, or they'll stay very, very quiet about this, saying the holiday season was pretty much even with last year. But when we look closely at luxury retailers, we are in a trend where it's completely declining. I mean, if we go back to 2011, we're seeing sales at luxury retailers at 35%. And since that time, at the height, which was the height after 2008, they pumped it back up, and 2011 was the height of luxury sales. This has been dropping. 2012, it dropped to 25%. 2013, it dropped to 20% of sales. 2014, we're down to 15%. 2015, we're at 10%. And this trend is continually declining now, which is very strange because as we started from 2011, we see the unemployment rate continually drop throughout these years. But the sales are dropping all throughout these sales. Now, if everyone is employed and everyone is now making a good living like they're telling us, and we're right there in a full recovery, we should see retail increasing, trending up. I mean, this is what we saw prior to 2008. Unemployment went lower. Retail expanded. They opened more stores. They added more employees. Sales were continually going up. Unemployment continually going down. This is how we know that this is completely manipulated. It's completely created to convince America that we are in this incredible recovery. And we've been looking at all this data. We've been looking at all this information. And everything that we've said, going back to the beginning of this year or last year, and every time the holiday comes up, we see that it comes true. Because you cannot argue with the facts. You can take numbers, you can manipulate the statistics, but they're not going to fit into the story of what's really going on. And this is what the U.S. government central bankers are trying to do. They're trying to take their manipulated GDP, they're trying to take their unemployment numbers, they're trying to take their manipulated inflation numbers, and they're trying to create this picture that we're in a recovery. It doesn't work anymore because these facts and these manipulations are completely separate and apart right now. And we are seeing that U.S. demand and time deposits have a direct correlation on real U.S. final sales. And every time the demand and the time deposits go into negative, we enter a recession or depression. If we look back, going back to 1983 to 1991 to 2001, 2008, it all happened across the board. And guess what? Time deposits just went negative. We're at negative 3%, which means retail sales are going to follow. This is the trend going all the way back to 1977. And it happened every single time. And what's amazing about this is it's following the track that we've been talking about. People don't have work. People have part-time jobs. People lost their wealth in 2008. If people are not going to the store, there's no demand for products. Retail is not going to order these products. If they don't order the products, the factories are not going to produce. If they're not going to produce, they don't need the raw material. And this is what we're seeing right now. The Baltic Dry Index dropped to 402, down again another 13 points to 3.1% drop. This is a new record low. And the Chinese shipyards, they're vanishing. The orders for ships have tumbled. Ships are in their ports or they're anchored out at sea. The entire system is falling apart right in front of our eyes. Now, will this pick up a little bit? Maybe. But this is absolutely awful. And while all this is going on, the U.S. Mint reported that they sold nearly as much gold on the first day of 2016 as all of January 2015. And they went on to say that American Eagle silver coin sales jumped on Monday after the U.S. Mint said it set the first weekly allocation of 2016 at 4 million ounces, roughly 4 times the amount rationed in the last 5 months of 2015, after a surge in demand. According to the Mint, more than half of the week's allocation of silver sold on Monday, the first day of 2016 sales, is a sign that demand is entering 2016, which is completely off the charts. Now, putting the silver demand in context, 2.76 million ounces of silver bullion coins sold today is exactly half of the 5.53 million ounces that sold in all of January of 2015. Now, the first day sales of American Eagle gold bullion coins was also unprecedented, with 60,000 ounces sold, equal to roughly 75% of the 81,000 that sold in the entire month of January 2015. So what does this tell us? It tells us people are starting to realize something is wrong in the market. They want the physical, and they are purchasing right now. They realize that this economy is not what it seems. It is a complete illusion. Deutsche Bank right now, they sold off their storage facility in London. They're continually exiting the financial markets. And China, the Commercial Bank of China, through its Standard Bank subsidiaries, they purchased the vault. And it can hold 1,500 tons or 50 million ounces of gold. So now China owns this vault. Deutsche Bank is out. Very interesting. RBS is out there. the Royal Bank of Scotland, they have recommended to their clients to prepare for a cataclysmic year. They're thinking that the stock market is going to drop by a fifth. They sell everything except high-quality bonds. According to RBS analysts, the markets are showing the same stress alerts as seen before the 2008 crisis. Really? So we are seeing the same thing occur now than what happened in 2008, but this time, it's going to be much, much worse. This time, we have to remember that those families who lost their jobs in 2008, many of them have not recovered. They lost their homes. They lost their pensions, their life savings. Many went bankrupt. Many had short sales. And they never fully got the same job they had once before. And many of them are working part-time. And as we go through from 2008 to 2016, many people lost their jobs. I mean, just from June of 2014 to the end of December of 2015, almost 1 million people were laid off. These people either are not working or they have 1, 2, or 3 part-time jobs, and they're trying to make ends meet. The economy right now is so weak because it was created as an illusion. And as it was created as an illusion, the central bank and the U.S. government created bubbles by creating free money. They inflated these bubbles. They removed the strict requirements for people to take out debt, like for auto loans, for houses, for student loans, because they needed these bubbles inflated. We know the derivative, the stock market, central bank controls it. And all of this is one gigantic bubble. Now, Rand Paul, and I'm not for a Republican or Democrat, I could care less about that. You know what I care about? You're sitting in government, you better be working for the people, period. That's it. It used to be where you're donating your time, you're volunteering to go into this position. This was not a career. You didn't get health benefits. You didn't get a pension. This wasn't a career. Being a politician wasn't a career. You had a real job, but you did this because you love the country. You wanted to make it better. Now what we have is lifelong politicians that are bribed, that are coerced by central banks, corporations, and foreign entities. But Rand Paul introduced, like his father, a bill, Audit the Fed, which was H.R. 24/S264. And they were voting on it today that we should understand the extent of the Fed's balance sheet. We should audit them. We should know what they've done. And just to remind everyone, when this country was being formed, Thomas Jefferson, the founding father, viewed the powers of the central banks as being contrary to the protections of the Constitution. He wrote, "I sincerely believe that the banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies." And they are, because they have the power to control governments, which then control the armies. And I hate to say this, which we knew that this was not going to move forward with this auditing the Fed. The U.S. Senate failed to advance this piece of legislation, which is odd because wouldn't you want to know how this private corporation is handling the financial aspect of the country? Wouldn't you want to know that? Shouldn't we know that? Yes, we should. But again, a lot of these government employees, politicians, are paid off by the central bank, corporations, foreign entities, and they're not working for the people. Now, the question is, Why do we need the Fed, the central banking system? We don't. No one can figure out why we need them. Why do we need them to create currency out of thin air and loan it to the government with interest? Does that even make sense? And if you take this a step further, and which is very interesting, the way the corporate media, the way the government, and everyone views how the economy is doing is based on the knowledge of how the Federal Reserve runs the system. Because you hear things like, oh, the country's doing well because more people are going into debt. More people are putting and spending on their credit cards. Think about what they're telling you. Well, wouldn't it be better if the country was spending the money they had and not going into debt? Remember, we were brainwashed to think that this makes the economy strong if we go further and further into debt. So every time they give us a financial report, look, there's more debt in the auto loan industry. There's more debt in the housing. People are going for loans. There's more debt here. This is their way of thinking. We need to change all this. We need to get rid of the central bank. There's no reason for them to be in existence. Period. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.